We begin with breaking news in the politics lead. Senate Republicans sending a message to President Trump this afternoon that they are not going to stand with him on his new policy that has resulted in thousands of migrant children being taken from their moms and dads after being apprehended at the southwest border. Moments ago, the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell announced that Senate Republicans are united in their determination to end this practice.
I support, and all of the members of the Republican conference support, a plan that keeps families together while their immigration status is determined.
That, of course, would theoretically override the new Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy that took effect in the spring, prompting criminal prosecutions of every single person apprehended at the border, which has resulted in thousands of children being taken from their parents, complete with heartbreaking images and haunting sounds of frightened, confused, and screaming kids. President Trump today, desperately trying to regain control of the story, tried to change the conversation to the larger topic of illegal immigration. Today, President Trump using some of his darkest language yet, perhaps the harshest rhetoric he's used about this issue since the opening day of his campaign, tweeting this morning, quote, "Democrats are the problem. They don't care about crime and want illegal immigrants, no matter how bad they may be, to pour into and infest our country. Like MS-13, they can't win on their terrible policies, so they view them as potential voters." You'll notice the use of the dehumanizing word infest there, applied to undocumented immigrants, part of the president's embrace of the politics of fear and division, talking about the, quote, death and destruction that's been caused by people coming into this country, and suggesting that those of us in the media covering these children impacted by his new policy are helping criminals.
They're fake. They are helping these smugglers and these traffickers like nobody would believe.
And as if that divisive rhetoric were not enough,
Democrats love open borders. Let the whole world come in. Let the whole world, MS-13 gang members from all over the place, come on in. We have open borders. Someday, they're going to vote for Democrats.
the problem for President Trump is that even though 58% of Republican voters support his new policy, which prompts these children to be separated from their family, 2/3 of the overall American people, plus many Republican lawmakers, faith leaders, and even former First Lady Laura Bush, well, they do not. The president and his administration defending this policy have lied and obfuscated and told half-truths about it, falsely blaming the new policy on Democrats, falsely denying it exists, and they cannot even seem to be able to get on the same page on some major points about the policy. For instance, whether separating families and the overall zero-tolerance policy is a deterrent for illegal immigration. Here's Attorney General Jeff Sessions last night.
Are you considering this a deterrent?
I see that the fact that no one was being prosecuted for this as a factor in a 5-fold increase in 4 years in this kind of illegal immigration. So, yes, hopefully people will get the message.
So, yes, zero tolerance is intended as a deterrent, says the Attorney General. But just hours before, the Homeland Security Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen, seemed offended by the very notion.
Are you intending for this to play out as it is playing out? Are you intending for parents to be separated from their children? Are you intending to send a message?
I find that offensive. No, because why would I ever create a policy that purposely does that?
Perhaps it's a deterrent.
No.
Secretary Nielsen also denied having seen the heartbreaking images of children that have outraged and moved so many Americans, even though it was her agency that released some of the images. So we assume that the secretary has not heard this audio from ProPublica.
¿De dónde son ustedes? ¿Y tú?
Guatemala.
No llores. Vas a llegar con... Mira, ella te va a explicar y te va a ayudar. ¿Cierto, Consul?
¿Qué va a pasar con su consulado hoy? Papá.
The sound of a child being taken from her father. The Wall Street Journal's conservative editorial board warning Republicans today that these images and sounds and the general topic of immigration could cost Republicans their majorities in the House and Senate this November. Even some of the president's biggest political allies on Capitol Hill and elsewhere are turning against him. The president is scheduled to arrive at Capitol Hill in minutes. We have this story covered from every angle. Polo Sandoval is live for us on the border. He's talking to families who have children living in this terrifying limbo. Jeff Zeleny starts us off from the White House.
President Trump is still pointing the finger at Democrats over the crisis at the border.
Democrats love open borders. Let the whole world come in. Let the whole world, MS-13 gang members from all over the place, come on in.
But it's his fellow Republicans who are giving him an earful. They're imploring his administration to overturn the zero-tolerance policy of separating children from their parents when apprehended at the border.
We ought to be doing everything in our power to bring the children together with their parents. So I want to pause so we can really approach these things intelligently.
Senator Orrin Hatch, often one of the most loyal Trump supporters, said in the case of family separations, he's wrong. But the president is showing no signs of backing down, telling Congress to fix the impasse on immigration.
We can't let people pour in. They've got to go through the process. And maybe it's politically correct, or maybe it's not. We got to stop separation of the families.
The White House has presented conflicting, confusing, and misleading messages on what type of bill the president would sign.
I don't want children taken away from parents. And when you prosecute the parents for coming in illegally, which should happen, you have to take the children away.
These scarring images broadcast across the country and the world showing children being pulled away from their parents at the border. The Department of Homeland Security now saying more than 2,300 children have been detained. It's prompted a near revolt among Republicans.
Only Congress can change the law. I also recognize that if the president wanted to, he could make modifications.
The Secretary, the Attorney General, the President, they could move on this tomorrow.
I think they're scrambling to try to figure out how to be able to handle this. I think they were legitimately surprised at the pushback that they've had.
Senator Ted Cruz, facing re-election in Texas, also pushing for immediate action.
All of us who are seeing these images of children being pulled away from moms and dads in tears, we're horrified. This has to stop.
The conservative editorial page of the Wall Street Journal weighing in with a scolding message. Are Republicans trying to lose their majorities in Congress this November? We assume not, but you can't tell from the party's internal feuding over immigration that is fast becoming an election year nightmare over separating immigrant children from their parents. The president is blaming nearly everyone except his own administration for a policy he could instantly reverse, blasting the media today.
They are helping these smugglers and these traffickers like nobody would believe. They know it. They know exactly what they're doing, and it should be stopped.
Now, Jake, in the next hour, the president is going up to Capitol Hill to meet with House Republicans, a previously scheduled meeting to talk about a couple immigration bills. But the question still remains, and it's an open one, what would the president support? Yesterday, officials here at the White House said he does not want a small fix, a narrow fix just on family separation. He wants it part of a larger plan. Of course, that includes the $25 billion for his border wall. Unlikely to get that. But, Jake, the question today, is the president going to get an earful or not? Are representatives like Mia Love, Republican of Utah, going to say this is not a partisan issue, it's not a Republican-Democrat issue, it's a right or wrong issue, as she said in a statement? Oftentimes when the president goes to Capitol Hill, he talks, Republicans listen, and nothing happens. We'll see if that's different today, because children, of course, are at stake. Jake?
All right, Jeff Zeleny at the White House. Thanks so much. Let me bring in my panel. Mia, let me start with you. Mia, I mean, the president could stop this right now if he wanted to. He could call Jeff Sessions and say, stop this. It's prosecutorial discretion. You don't have to prosecute every single person, and you don't have to separate these families. Capitol Hill can do it. Will they?
That's the big question, right? We'll see what comes out of this meeting that the president is going to have on the House side. There are a couple of bills that have been floating around there that some people say would fix this, other people say wouldn't fix this. And then there are any number of bills on the Senate side also floating around. There's a Feinstein proposal. There's one, I think Heidi Heitkamp also has a proposal. Ted Cruz has a proposal. So we'll see. I mean, I think the big question is what the president is going to do. Is he going to say this narrow fix, as Jeff reported, a narrow fix isn't good enough, and then go for a bigger bill? But we know what happened with those bigger bills. We've been here before when they tried to do a DACA fix, they tried to do border security, they tried to have those 4 pillars that the president wanted in a big comprehensive immigration bill, and that went nowhere. So we'll see what happens tonight going forward. But we do know that the president so far has dug in on this and is blaming Capitol Hill.